Anne Louise, 16 years ago, shortly after we met and you agreed to be one of our mentors, you and I began to talk about toxicity, toxicity in the home. You put together a laundry list that is enormous about the things that we need to be aware of in our own homes that could be doing damage to us on a regular basis. I'd appreciate very much if you'd be willing to explain to us the kind of things that are toxic in the home, but how far that's begun to go now, and what we need to really do to understand we have to do something to reverse some of this.
Oh, you've asked such a loaded question. You know, I'm currently doing a book on this entire topic, and that is the EMF explosion that is really following us into our homes, our workplace, our spas, our motels, our hotels, our airplanes. I'm talking about the wireless revolution with the wireless routers that are in your home, with your cordless deck phones, and all of that we're finding is impacting the system with artificial frequencies 24/7 from which your system never gets a rest. Because even if you're going to bed at night, you're going to be having, most people will be having something in their house that's constantly emanating and transmitting and receiving a signal, which is that wireless router. Or they've got their phone that is constantly being able to pick up a system, whether it's in use or not. So my concern is that all of these artificial frequencies are impacting the cell membrane, and that is really putting it into lockdown mode, meaning that you're not able to detoxify, not able to accept nutrients the way you should be because of this constant barrage that we're exposed to. You know, years ago, whether it was asbestos or, God forbid, Agent Orange or even secondhand smoke, I mean, you'd be exposed, but then the exposure after you went away would be limited. You weren't constantly exposed. There's no reprieve now because wherever you go, you're being exposed, whether it's even in your home or whether your neighbor is doing something with his iPhone 40 feet away. So the question is, what do we do?
Yes.
We make our homes a healing haven. That's what we do so we can regenerate and rejuvenate and protect ourselves. What we do is, instead of using those cordless phones, is we get a corded phone, because when you get a cordless phone in your house, a wireless cordless phone, what you're doing is actually bringing a cell phone tower into your very premises that can radiate hundreds of feet from what some of my meters are now telling me. And I have actual meters that I use to do my measurements. You be using a corded phone where you're sleeping. You make sure that there's nothing electric or digital that's near your head. Okay, so you move every digital clock maybe 6 feet from your head. I unplug the television before I go to bed. Or you can also get special sheets that we call earthing or grounding sheets.
We have them.
Yeah, so do we, that insulate and protect you, so that you almost have this invisible bubble around you that will start to neutralize all the free radicals that these particular radio waves, these radio frequencies, start to trigger in your body. And by neutralizing the free radicals, by feeding your body the natural electrons that are flowing from the earth, you're able to quench inflammation as well as hopefully the progression of any kind of disease or disorder. So it's limiting your exposure. When you go to bed at night, you make sure that you're in a true healing haven. And it's also trying to do the best you can with using technology, by using options that are not as dangerous. See, a lot of the research that we're seeing shows that after 10 years of using some of these elements, particularly cell phones, that's when the brain tumors start to proliferate. So we are now in an environment that who knows what's going to happen. I can tell you that when we go wireless, there'll probably be a lot of problems based upon what happened in Sweden when a whole village went into the WiMAX mode. I mean, there was all sorts of problems with the heart. Arrhythmia rate started to increase because your heart is an electrical organ. People were much more depressed. And so I just hope that this message gets out far and wide, and people start to realize that there's big money in terms of what's going on with the wireless technology, and it's not at all safe, and you're being exposed to hundreds of billions of more frequencies than our grandparents. So that has to mean something.
Speaking of grandparents, I would suppose that these problems are exacerbated by people who are elderly or with the infants. Is that correct, would you think?
Well, certainly with infants, because their brains haven't developed, they have thinner skulls, so these things can penetrate more deeply. Yeah, you never want to give your kid a cell phone. You don't even want to give a child that's 18 years or younger the use of a cell phone. Absolutely. And I think in terms of the elderly, in terms of reduced immunity, that probably is true too. I think you should only use cell phones for emergencies. You shouldn't be using it for your primary telephone calls. Text as much as you can because you're not putting a little microwave oven near your brain. And I think it's important also that when you're in the house and you're microwaving, particularly for elderly individuals, that you step out of the room when you're microwaving because every single microwave oven leaks.
Well, if we had another hour, I'd ask you to explain to me how come we don't know anything about this.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
the most covered up circumstance
I don't think
ever.
Americans want to know. I'll tell you in one fell swoop, I don't think Americans want to know what's going on. I really think that they don't want to know because it impacts our convenient life. But the Europeans know, and they're actually taking bulldozers and they're bulldozing down the cell phone towers, so they got a sense that something isn't right. Yeah, I mean, it's a problem, and I can only tell you that within the next 5 to 10 years, you're just going to see a proliferation of autoimmune problems, every disease known to man, not just the brain tumors, because it affects every bodily system. And I think that you're seeing chronic fatigue and you're seeing fibromyalgia in levels that you never saw it before because of all the EMFs, or now they call them EMRs, electromicrowave radiation, that is proliferating the environment. Unbelievable.
When do you expect the book will be out?
Hopefully the book is going to be out September 2010. And it's kind of a wake-up call for people to do something. You know, there are a lot of more scholarly evaluations and investigations into this, but I'm just a person who's electrosensitive, so I needed to say something.
Well, thank you for the information.
You're welcome.